Okay, here is the solutions for the probability review worksheet that I promised you guys I would work on and get to you. So let's go take a look at this and see what we could come up with. Now remember, you do have the answers. They're at the end of this worksheet, all the way down here. So we're going to take a look at seeing, and we're going to view here how to go about getting some of these answers. Okay, and it's going to be based on the work that you guys seen in that video. So, okay, let's start by reading here. And we're going to notate that the first question that we see here is going to be about a ratio, and we're going to create a proportion. So it says the ratio. Remember that phrase ratio. That ratio means A to B. Right? We have this fraction A to B always. And we do have a guest this morning. Hi, Val. How you doing? Good to see you. All right. So the ratio of quarterbacks' completed passes to attempted passes. So as we read this, it's the ratio of completed passes to attempted passes. And they're saying it's 2-9. So I'm going to say this is complete to attempt. So this is our ratio language here, complete to attempt. And it's 2-9. So at this point, 2-9, this is how we write this. This is complete to attempt. And as we said yesterday, this is complete over attempt. And we're going to create a proportion here. But it must be complete to attempt. We have to have the units correct. So let's go back and continue to read that question here. And it says 2-9. If he attempted, now I'm going to color coordinate that green because that's the attempt. If he attempted 45 passes, how many passes did he complete? Now, there was an attempt of 45. Round to the nearest whole number if necessary. Okay, round to the nearest whole number if necessary. So he attempted 45. So I'm going to go back. And we're going to go back. So the attempt, we got to get the right color. Right? Attempts green. So you guys can see this here. So he attempted 45 passes. And they want to know how many completed passes were there. So how many completed passes? So we have completed to the attempts. The key, again, is to make sure as you read this left to right, the ratio, you keep your units consistent. The numerator is completed. The denominator is the attempts. And very often, they'll say use a variable like x just so they can go back to algebra. And remind you at this point, you have what's called a proportion here, right? So this is a proportion, equal ratios. Oops, haven't got that coffee working. Right? These are equal ratios. And so what you want to do is what we just put there is cross multiply. So when you cross multiply, remember, even though I lectured on this, A over B equals C over D. We'll just remind folks that this relationship is equivalent to AD equal to BC. Okay, this is what we're talking about. So when we do that algebra, cross multiplication, this is 2 times 45 equals 9 times x. Okay, you're using the cross multiplication. 2 times 45 equals 9 times x. Now 2 times 45 is 90. And so we solve for x by dividing both sides by 9. We get cancellation. We get 10 equals x, or x equals 10. So what that means here is the answer here is going to be 10. Okay, so it's going to be 10. So let's get our door. Sound effects. There we go. So x is 10. The answer is 10. So x represents the completions. So we can say there was 10 completions. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, 10 completions for our final answer. Let's double check. Not now. Let's double check that this is the answer here in, okay, yeah, number 1, the answer is 10. All right. Okay. Now, like I said before, I'm going to work on the odd numbered questions here for you guys. So we're going to look at number 3 now. It's the next question. I'll let you do number 2. And for number 3, we're going to read this. It says, it takes Mary Alice 22 minutes, let's get this, 22 minutes to type and spell check 6 pages of a manuscript. 22 minutes to spell check for every 6 pages. So I'm going to write that down. 22 minutes to 6 pages. If you want, let's do it here. That's the spell check. This is in minutes. And these are pages. So just reading it off the bat, we know they gave us a relationship between 2 quantities. They gave us a ratio. Find how long it takes. How long is time? I guess that's in minutes. So find how long it takes her to type and spell check 15 pages. So here's what they did. They gave us an unknown quantity to 15 pages for question 3. So, and this is going to be the time in minutes. And this next number represents the number of pages. So ratio of minutes to pages, minutes to pages. We're gonna use that. 22 to 6, x to 15. Okay, so for number 3, this was number 1. 22 minutes to 6 pages was the first ratio, and they're asking how many x to, I believe it was 15 pages. Okay. 22 and x, they're the same units. 6 and 15, the same units. These are in pages. And you have minutes, and you have to be consistent with the units. So the ratio, the first ratio is 22 to 6. Set it equal to x to 15. There's your proportion now. Equal ratios gives you a proportion. So I'll write that down. So as you guys know, you're going to cross multiply. Okay. So 22 times 15 becomes 6 times x. And we don't know what 22 times 15 is. So if we don't know, there is no shame in getting out our algorithm. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 2 is 10. That makes it 11. 1 times 2. 1 times 2. We now add. So 330 equals 6x. Okay. Solving for x, we divide both sides by 6. Now, we need to know what 6 going into 330 is. Now, I can do it by hand, and that'll equal x. Or, since we're allowed, we could use RTI and say 6 divided by 330. Oops, sorry. 6 goes into 330 divided by 6, I apologize, is 55. So, okay. So we're going to go back to the iPad, and X is going to be 55. Now that means it's going to be 55 minutes. There's your answer here. So maybe we just put this in a nice box. Put the first one in a nice box. So we're consistent. And so, ladies and gentlemen, yes, 55 minutes. I guess we'll put that here so we can see these equal ratios. So we know 22 to 6 is the same as 55 to 15. And then we go back and we'll check our answer, right? This is number 3 now, since you guys can do the evens. And sure enough, number 3, 55 minutes is the answer. All right. We're going to try number 5 here. So let's get rid of this here. Okay. Number 5, another proportion question. So it is recommended that there be at least 12.6 feet of floor space in a classroom for every student. Believe it or not, they gave us a ratio. Okay. They gave us a ratio. You say they did? 12.6 square feet to. Now, here's something that people need to get used to. The phrase every student is really short for every one student. So this is going to be to one student. Okay, that first ratio to one student there for you. So it's 12.6 square feet. We put feet to the second power. And again, the word to, I will leave it there. And that's the first sentence. They gave us a ratio. Now they're going to say, find the minimum floor space. Find the floor space that 27 students require. That's really a ratio again. Find the floor space. So that's X, 2. The question is going to be your variable, right? Find X. This is that floor space. This is the orange portion, since this is what they're describing in square feet. That represents 27 students. So it's 27 students now. So it's another ratio. So it's 12.6 square feet. This will also be in square feet. So this will be the first quantity to the second quantity. We'll do it by colors. And I'm going to bring this in our scratch portion. We're going to answer this question here. This is number 5. So write them as a fraction. 12.6 to 1 has to be x2 27. Make sure. Now, for some reason, I put the colors backwards, but okay. As long as I'm consistent. So I started with green. So green, this is in the units of square feet. So this has to be square feet. And this is in student to student. So now we get to just cross multiply. Okay. 12.6 times 27 becomes 1 times x, which is really 12.6 times 27. 1 times anything is itself, so x is 12.6 times 27. So if I go to the TI now, 12.6 times 27 is 340.2. So 340.2 here. So let's go back to the iPad and 340.2 is x. I thought they said to approximate to a whole number, which means the nearest whole number means the ones position. So that's 340, ladies and gentlemen, 340. This is what x is, 340. So that's 340 students. So that should be the final answer. So if there's 12.6 square feet for every one student, that means you need 340 square feet to every 27 students, approximately. So let's see what that answer is. Oh, they gave it exact 340.2. Well, you can give it exact. Because really, you probably shouldn't. If this is a legal requirement, then go out to the decimal, 340.2. But I thought it said approximates the nearest whole number in the instructions. Anyway, double check the instructions. Okay. It didn't, but that's okay. So it'll be 340.2. Not a big deal. All right. Round to the nearest tenth. Here's the instructions. The answer was to the nearest tenth, so they did say. So I apologize. It is 340.2 square feet. Okay. There it is. So number 7 here, if we go to the instructions here, it's going to say write each decimal as a percent. Remember, decimals as a percent. It's kind of like what we were working with. So for number 7.7, remember the process. You multiply this by 100. So you can convert every decimal to a percent by multiplying by 100. Now, what this does to that decimal, if you guys remember, of course, you can go to your calculator. Don't really need to do that, but to illustrate to people, to remind people here, as you see the answer is 70, just as a reminder, all you need to do is count the zeros. I got 1, 2 zeros after that 100, and you move the decimal 1, 2 spaces to the right, and you fill this in, this blank space, with a 0, so that your final answer will be 70. And that represents really 70%. So 0.7, that decimal as a percent. We're now reading the set of instructions that are here for number, 6 through 9. Convert each decimal to a percent. So you multiply it by 100, or simply move the decimal 2 spaces to the right, and that'll give you 70%. So when we check number 7 here in the answer portion, of course, we should get 70%, and sure enough, we do. So ladies and gentlemen, another correct answer. Okay. So for number 9 now, since we're doing the odds, number 9 here, 1. The decimal is after that 1 for number 9. So we can say multiply 1 by 100, and 1 by 100, you guys know, you should know, is going to be, we don't need the calculator for everything. We should get 100. So this should be 100%. If you want to move that decimal 2 spaces to the right and then fill in the blank spaces with 2 zeros, because remember you counted 2 zeros there, your final answer is going to be, again, simply 100. And that should be the answer to number 9 here. Say, okay, number 9. Number 9, sure enough, is 100%. All right, that leaves us to 11. Write each decimal as a percent. The Syed family saves 0.1217 of their income. This is a decimal, ladies and gentlemen. And they're going to say, write this decimal as a percent. So 0.1217 times 100. Remember, you can use your calculator, or you can actually just simply move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. There is no blank spaces anymore. So you're looking at 12.17%. So when they gave the decimal representation here for number 11, that decimal represents 12.17%. And that's number 11, and we should see that way down here, number 11. Sure enough, number 11 we do, 12.17%. So there it is. Okay. Now let's look at number 13. Number 13 is the reverse process. Write each percent as a decimal. So you're going to write this. They're giving you now, I'm going to look at number 13. They gave you a percent, 170%. Now, how you do that is to really remember, even though it's in the video, the definition of X percent is X over 100. So 170% we write as 170 divided by 100. Now, we can do our long division. It's no shame in doing that. But in your TI again, 170 divided by 100. Remember what happens to the decimal whenever you divide by powers of 10. This is going to be 1.7 now. So let's remember the video. We know this answer is 1.7. But the shortcut, again, when you divide by 100, or powers of 10 down here, you count the number of zeros. There's 2 zeros. So some of you guys are going to tell me, Mr. Judge, is it true if I take the 170 with the decimal right here behind 170? This time there's 2 zeros and I'm dividing. We move 2 spaces to the left. So moving 2 spaces to the left now, not 2 spaces to the right. It's the reverse. Sure enough, you get 1.7. There's the decimal representation of percent. You're going backwards now. So both approaches are going to work out for you. So number 13 is going to be 1.7. We can verify that. There you go. 1.7. And then number 15 should work the same exact way. So if I take the shortcut, 15.98 and I take the decimal 2 spaces, 1, 2 to the left, we get 0.1598. This time we're dividing by 100. The decimal is going to be 0.1598. The decimal representation of 15.98% is 0.1598. So 15 should be 0.1598. And sure enough, ladies and gentlemen, it is. There we go. Okay. So that leaves us to 70. So I'm going to go back here. We're going to erase this, or it's not 70. That leaves us to 17. And let's read what this says. Oh, okay. It says, a basketball player made 30 out of 100 attempted free throws. That's a ratio. 30 out of 100. It's a ratio. And you guys know every ratio is written as a fraction. We can say 30 to 100, and that's fine. That's 30 completions to 100 attempted free throws. They want to know what percent of free throws were made. So the question is, what percent of free throws were made? So this is the ratio, 30 over 100. Now, as a decimal, 30 over 100 is 0.3. I'll put a 0. And you might say, why? Again, 30, the decimal's right here behind the 30. If you divide by 100 with, again, 2 zeros, you move that decimal 2 spaces to the left. There it is. This is the decimal representation of 30 to 100 here. But then you might say, wait a minute, Mr. Judge, that converted it to a decimal. I know. But if you're awake, notice this is the definition. This is the definition of X percent. It is X over 100. So what they're really saying is this is really 30%. So I can convert the decimal now by moving 2 spaces to the right and getting 30%, just like we did prior. Or I could be awake and recognize they actually gave me a percent simply because we were dividing by 100 here. So 17 should be 30%. So 17, 30%, okay. The reason I showed it to you guys this way is because you don't always get a nice division by 100 when you do this process. Like look at number 19. In a survey of 100 people, 4 preferred relish. Well, maybe they did. They were nice to us again. So it looks like they're being nice. Okay. Rookie questions, rookie questions, rookie questions. Oops, didn't want to do that. They were nice. So there's now saying in a survey of 100 people, 4 preferred relish. This is in number 19. So the preferred relish, what percent preferred relish? So we write down 4 preferred relish out of 100. That's a decimal. We can write it 4 out of 100. But the reason I left this up is because it fits our definition of percent, which is what they're asking. So that's the definition of 4%, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to leave it as is. 4%. X percent, 4%. Okay. What preferred relish? 4% of the survey preferred relish. So 19 is 4%. There you go. Preferred relish. Interesting. Okay. Notice if you converted, if you said, what's 4 divided by 100? It's not that you have to do that. Let's clear this out. 4 divided by 100 should give you 0.04. That's the decimal representation. Now multiply that number times 100, and that'll give you your 4 for the answer of 4% as well. And that's kind of what we were going through with the first set of questions here. So it's 4%. But if you're awake, remember what we said, definitions are everything. This is our definition. All right, that's number 19. Now, the rest is about reading. It looks like the rest of these questions are about reading a graph. So can we read a frequency table here or a histogram? This is really a histogram based on a frequency table. Okay, and the rectangles represent the number of tickets sold per week. So down here, first week, let's take a look. Second week, third week, fourth week, fifth week, sixth week. This is in weeks. So this horizontal axis gives you the weeks, and the vertical axis is going to represent, if we read that, let's do it in, let's change the color. I guess we'll do it in, or we do brown. That's going to represent the number of tickets sold. So this represents 10 tickets, 20, 30, 40, 50, the vertical axis, and it goes all the way up to 60 tickets sold. And they're just going to check to see if we can read a graph. So it says the bar graph shows. Bar graph is another way of saying histogram. Shows the number of tickets sold each week by the garden club for their annual flower show. So the first week, so you guys can start to read this. The first week, it kind of looks like this is between 40 and 50. And I'm going to remark something here. Here's 40, here's 50. This is in the middle. That's where 45 should be. So midway between 40 and 50 is, in fact, 45. So I don't know if I could get in there. But here's where 45 would be. Okay. Midway between 40 and 50, right? That's 45. And then it's just a little bit higher. I'm going to take a guess. That looks like it's 46 to me. It's just a little more. So in that first week, I'm going to say that looks like 46, just to kind of help to introduce how to read all of this, right? So this one is 46, and I don't think I can. Let's scroll out. That looks like it's 46. I put the frequency on top. All right, I usually put the frequencies on top. So that looks kind of like 46 in week 1. Look at week 2 now. If we read week 2, it's 10. It looks like this is 5, 10, 15, 20. So I'm going to take a guess again. That looks like a little bit more. I'm going to say that's maybe 11. I'm not even sure, but I'm going to guess. Whoever drew this was a little odd. I would never do it this way, but okay. Week 3 is clear. Week 3, you should say that's 30. Week 4, not so clear. I'm going to guess again. I don't know if that's week 4, right? It's going to be, if we look at the 4th week now, it's midway between 50, that's 55. I'm going to guess at 59. Not quite sure if that's the case, but okay. So week 5 now. Right down here, week 5. That's pretty clear. This is 40. And the week 6, I'm going to say that's one less. Looks like it's almost 20. I'm going to say it's 19. So I went through just looking at reading this to kind of get my feet wet before I even answered the question here. So some of those answers are pretty clear. The others are going to take somewhat of a guess, but this is how we start to read this table now. So let's focus on getting the answers. During which week was the most number of tickets sold? So notice they didn't even ask us. They didn't ask us for the frequency. They're saying which week had the most tickets sold. right in here, week 4, ladies and gentlemen, because it has the biggest rectangle there. So I'm going to say this is going to be week number 4. So we're going to check 21. Should be week 4. And sure enough, week 4 is correct. All right. Has the highest frequency value. Okay. So look at 23. How many tickets were sold during week 6? Number 23 is asking week 6. Here's week 6. We took a guess, right? Remember week 6 here? This last week right in here? Week 6, we're saying 19 because it's not quite 20. So hopefully we're right. Not quite sure. Let's see if the publishers were okay on this one, week 6. So number 23, we'll say, how many tickets were sold in week 6? 19. And sure enough, they agree, 19 tickets. Okay, number 25 now. Let's look at number 25 here. So 25 says, how many more tickets were sold during the 5th week than the 2nd week? Oy vey. That's a pretty good question. Why didn't I think of that one? How many more tickets were sold during the 5th week than week 2? So we're going to compare week 5 and week 2 now. I like that question. I'm going to get rid of some of this. Okay. Week 5. Week 5, we had 40 tickets. Week 2, 11 tickets. That's a really good question. I like that. Jeez. Note to self. Note to self. How many more tickets? The question is, what's the difference between 40 and 11? So we're going to have to take the difference between 40 and 11, ladies and gentlemen. Now, yes, you could use your TI, or you can go back and use some arithmetic. Use your subtraction algorithm. There's no harm in doing some arithmetic yourself. So the answer should be 29. So when you go back now and you say, hey, 25, the last one, 29 tickets, it looks like we got this answer right as well. So I'm just going to fill that in here. 29 more tickets were sold. And that's not a bad question. I kind of like it. That's a pretty good one, ladies and gentlemen. That's a great one. So anyway, just looking at this chart and table, let's see, is Val still here, Val? Take a look. Hey, Val, just curious, which week had the least tickets sold if you're still here? Right? You said you did the homework. Which one had the least? Which week? Which week is the least tickets sold? Uh-oh. Wow. Val worked on this yesterday, so you guys know. So she's probably not even here. Hey, okay, you are. Outstanding. Good job. And you are even correct, Val. Week 2 with 11 tickets sold. Outstanding. We got to give you some extra credit, Val. Because, man, that's outstanding. You're the only one with me on this today. It's not that we told anybody. You just probably happened to be there or got the announcement. Good for you. You're locked in the course. Outstanding. Okay, still listening. Okay. Hey, Val, and the rest of you guys, I hope you guys have a great weekend. This is the video I promised you guys to get up, so it's there. So you take care and you stay safe, all of you. And hey, Val, thank you for still being here. You have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.